my camera is my best friend, all right? And I say that because I take her everywhere with me, one, and two, she has been with me through a lot of changes. Some where I was first learning about how to be a photographer and a videographer. Others where I was growing into my own. I was working with companies and other brands and collaborating. And then recently being able to take my camera, this beauty right here, just take my camera to be able to create my own events and ultimately make a name for myself. Important to me because of the fact that I was encountering certain issues when it came to working with certain companies, and it ranged from a lot of different things. Some people weren't really giving me weren't really valuing me enough. Some were, it was degrading after a while. Others, I just required more financially, and I needed whatever I was doing to match the energy that I was giving and also the quality that I was giving, because at the end of the day, I'm still somebody who understands what I have to offer, and I'm still somebody that is going to make sure that I am going to give the best that I possibly can give. Okay, so because of those things that took place so often too, by the way, and I wasn't feeling like I had a lot of control, I wanted to take back control. So last year was the goal for me to take back control, and I did. I had set up many different events. I had a few workshops. I had a boudoir session that closed out all of my events, or so I held some mini sessions. And I even, of course, in the between of those, I had my own bookings for certain shows, a variety of things that I was able to partake in. And I feel like if I didn't step out and start posting more, start doing more of my own things, which also meant me creating my own content, I wasn't going to be able to see the success that I saw last year. My name is Jay, okay, and I am a photographer and a videographer, and I also am a marketing agency where I focus on helping personal brands to monetize on their own content. Okay, so to say it simply, like, I help you be yourself and get paid for it. At the end of the day, that's it. It's nothing that's very, very fancy. The only thing that's fancy is the way I present my content. And even that is not too crazy. And the reason why I have a balance of fancy and not too crazy, in the sense of it's pretty simple, is because I want my clients and people that watch me and utilize my tips to also understand that it's simple. Only thing that we're really doing is amplifying the quality of what we're doing, so that way people can see the value even more and understand that we are actually putting care and love into what it is that we believe in. So, we're gonna get right into it. I had made a video about this camera a while back when I first started, so I'm gonna do it again. I'm gonna break down what the camera is, what it has, and then we're gonna talk about the basics of understanding your triangle and capturing when capturing the best shots. Okay, so first and foremost, this camera right here is a Canon T7 Rebel, okay? Let me bring it closer to you guys. You guys can see on this side, Rebel T7, okay? So, this camera cost me about $1,000 through Flex Shopper. And if you look at it up now, it's not gonna be nowhere near $1,000. But it's always considered to be like a beginner camera. So I am definitely looking for new ones. I already know which one I want to get, but don't worry about that. I'm gonna make sure I get that this year. But this camera has been, why I say it's very important to me, because she has been helping me from the beginning till now, and I'm gonna continue using her even after I get my new camera. Like, I'm not gonna throw her away because she's still amazing. She still does the job. Okay, so this is what matters when it comes to taking care of your device. All right. So with that being stated, this camera is a DSLR, but it is not mirrorless, meaning I cannot pull my my screen out, and it's also not touchscreen. So if I were to turn this on, it'll cut on, but if I touch the screen, nothing will happen. Right? So it's not touchscreen. And I'm okay with that, right? Until I get obviously a mirrorless camera, and I can also touch the screen. But I don't need all the fanciness to get the job done. But eventually, I will get an upgraded one to go along with this camera. All right. So as you can see, if I can show this to you guys properly. All right. As you can see, okay, I'm gonna try my best because the way that this is set up. Okay. So that is your ISO. This is your aperture. And the one in the far and shutter speed. Okay, that 1/40 is your shutter speed. The one in the middle is your aperture. This one right here is your ISO. Why are we talking about these things? There are some images. Let me see if I can find one in here in my gallery. So this is one image that I shot recently. All right. So this model right here I had recently worked with, and it's a really, really good picture. Now, hopefully you can see the clarity of it for the most part, but it is pretty clear, right? And the way I can really tell is if I zoom in. All right, here we go. So if I zoom in, you can see the details of her tattoo. So if we go down, you see the details of her tattoo, right? And then if I go up, of course, you'll see the details of her face. Now, if I were to, let's see, zoom in even more, and then scroll over. This is the most interesting thing. Scroll over, you can see the background is a little blurry, right? And that's intentional. So that's supposed to be that way. That is an idea of how I would shoot this picture. Now, keep in mind, if you are like me when it comes to photography, you might look at a picture and you're able to actually go to the info of that said picture so you can find out exactly how it was captured. So for this one, it shows how it was captured, okay? And I'm gonna try my best to have you guys see this. Okay, so up here at the top, go all the way to this side. Okay, right here, that 1/40, that's your shutter speed. Okay, now the one right here, that is your aperture. This was with a 35mm. It doesn't say it on here exactly, but that's what I was shooting with. Okay, of course you can see it's a manual because you got the M, right? And then of course you can see I did it with the RAW, and I also got the JPEG itself. Now, if you go all the way towards the middle, you'll see that I shot with the ISO of 800. I'm going to, again, do my best to explain these to you. So when it comes to your shutter speed is an interesting one because of the fact that that one does control the speed that the amount of light is coming in, or the flash is being set off if you have a flash. I had an off-camera flash when it came to this shoot, but I didn't use it for that particular shot because I had my prime lens, which is going to be a whole different conversation. Not this one. This is actually my zoom lens. And the reason it's called zoom lens is because it can zoom in and out. All right. Prime lens, though. So this is the 35. That's what I had used when it came to my shoot. Okay. So because I use a 35, it already has a good amount of light that comes in through it. And the reason being is because of the aperture. Okay. So again, bear with me because sometimes it can be confusing. It took me over a year to really understand my settings, so that way I can really take the best pictures by switching out my settings. When I first got started, I was a nervous wreck. I was just snapping to the point where I just had to end up just doing on auto for some things because I didn't know what was controlling what, and I was getting bookings, but I wasn't practicing to learn my settings. So I finally got it now, but back then it was a mess, and the editing in post was even worse. Okay, so tip for you, if you don't know your settings, please practice and play with them because these are going to be the difference as to you being a great photographer and an amazing photographer, okay? When it comes to your settings, the first one, which I said the shutter speed, okay, that was the one that was like 1/40. Shutter speed controls how fast the picture is either being taken, the light is coming through, like all of that. It can determine if your picture is going to be blurry or if it's going to be sharp based on the speed. If your subject is moving and you don't have your shutter speed high enough, it's going to be blurry, okay? If your subject is standing still and your shutter speed is too low, it can still be blurry. And the meaning by too low, 1/40, 1/8 would be low, right? 1/4 would be low, right? And really what is that doing is actually bringing in more light for you, but it is also making it very, 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 very slow. So if you have it that low, any slight movement that you make and it's not on the tripod, it is going to come out blurry. Like the edges of your image are going to show up with a little bit of blurriness to it. Because of that, I had to make sure that I understood that, right? So because I also shoot a lot of pole performers and they're mostly moving. If I'm not doing video, I'm usually doing pictures, and my assistant, she's really gonna be doing the she's gonna be the one that's gonna do the videos for the most part if we're working together, right? In case somebody books for both. So then I will take care of the pictures. If it's a pole performance, pole show, people are moving. So if they're moving around, I have to make sure that my shutter speed is high enough to capture. But then I also have to make sure I'm using the right lens. That means it's going to be enough light to come through. So that way I don't have to use my off-camera flash, really. Because it could make it really, really harsh. It could make it not the most pleasing. Like, there's a lot of things that could really take place when it comes to that, right? But so for the most part, when it comes to those shows, I'm usually going with my prime lens. Just so that way I don't have to worry about using the flash. Because ultimately, one of the biggest reasons people use their prime lens is it brings you more light. Because you can bring the aperture to its lowest, and I'll explain that in a second. And it also helps you with the bokeh or blurry background, right, of your images, and while keeping the person in the foreground sharp, right? But keep in mind, any lens that you use, if the aperture is low, for the most part, it's gonna try to give the background a little bit of blurriness. But 2.0, 1.8 is gonna be where it's gonna be the most blurriest, right? But anything that's like, if it's like a 4.0, you might start getting some things in focus as far as the entire photo. And then anything higher than 4.0 is where you're going to get, everything's going to start really becoming in focus. But the caveat to that is, the more that your lens, as far as the higher that your aperture is, the less light shows up. You know what I'm saying? It's so weird. And it took me so long to figure this thing out. But I'm glad that I got it because I can explain it to other people as much as I can, right? So if you have your camera and you have your aperture at like an 8.0, 16.0, everything's going to be in focus. Everything's going to be in focus. But your lighting is going to be dark if you're basing it off of the aperture, right? So then this is where people would probably go to either messing with the ISO, lowering the shutter speed to also bring in more light, or they would actually add in an extra flash, right? Or an extra light source. That way you can compensate for that lighting. For the most part, I'm going to say all you're doing, mostly when it comes to your camera, is that you are adjusting for lighting and focus. That's it. I don't really see a whole lot of other things that this camera with all these different buttons is going to be relatable for. It's really to point, get you an angle. You learn angles, you know what I'm saying, as you go along. You're lowering your pose as you go along. But understanding that you can adjust, set up for the lighting in the camera. Make sure you have your lighting outside the camera, whatever that's going to look like. Continuous light or flash, off-camera flash. You know what I'm saying? It could be a speed light. It could be one of your Godox big spotlights. It could be a variety of things. But understand how to utilize those lighting and setting up the lighting inside your camera with the settings would help you understand how to really utilize your camera even more over time. And then, of course, understanding how to focus it and keep it in focus. All right, so that's the biggest thing, too. So I kind of jumped all over the place a little bit. I didn't even touch on ISO yet, but I want to go over the first two, shutter speed, and you got your aperture. Okay? And then we're going to go into ISO. So, again, shutter speed. The lower you go in the shutter speed, the more light comes in, but the blurrier things will get if they're not standing still or if you're not standing still. So if your camera, even if you hit that shutter and it goes off, even if it's just doing that slight motion, it can make the camera shake a little bit. Now things aren't in focus, right? Things aren't sharp. The person you're taking a picture of is not the sharpest, right? So having to be prepared for that. Now, the shutter speed, you bring the shutter speed all the way up. Say you're at for 1/500. You're shooting a football game. You want to make sure that the people are in focus. That'll be one way to make sure that they are definitely in focus and they are captured. also understanding that the lighting, whatever you're using, is going to have to come from somewhere else, because the higher the shutter speed is, the darker your image is. Okay, so low shutter speed, blurry, possibly blurry pictures, right? High shutter speed, sharp moving pictures, even for your standalone pictures, but it makes sense to understand if you're being moving or not, right? Moving picture. And then the higher the shutter speed, the darker the image is, the lower the shutter speed, the brighter the image is. That's shutter speed. Aperture. Aperture, I don't have a technical term for it. I hear people say it's the amount of light that goes into the little circle, the higher that it is, this and that. So I'm going to try to see if I can say it in those terms without making it sound so extra technical, which even it all of it is. But understanding that what is really happening with your aperture, there is a little hole. And as you adjust your numbers, that hole is getting bigger and it's getting smaller, right? And what's happening with that hole is that you're allowing certain light in, okay? So the lower, obviously, the smaller that hole is, the less light is going in. Now, when it's getting that small like this, what's actually happening is actually the aperture number is getting bigger. This the part is kind of confusing. Aperture is like your opposite, right? So the lower the number is, the more light that comes in. The higher the number is, the less light that comes in. From this to this. You see what I'm saying? It's very odd, but that's ideally how that is processed when it comes to aperture, right? So it's understanding when you can utilize your aperture, and I can show you guys this right quick, actually. I'm going to try my hardest. All right, so here's my camera. Stay in place. Stay in place. Stay in place. All right, so aperture right here in the middle. Boom. No. 5.6. Right? So keep in mind that's a pretty good median. All right? So if I were to, now you can see, first of all, these yellow carrots around my shutter speed, right? So it's like these little yellow arrows. You see that? So those I can actually move around. So I'm going to move this around to aperture 5.0. And then I'm also going to adjust by adjusting the knob at the top, which is right here. Right here. When I move that over up and down, or side by side, excuse me, that's actually going to adjust my aperture. Now, keep in mind, this is my zoom lens, right? So right now it doesn't go that high. Let's see if I spread it, if I make sure it's all the way open, my shutter speed doesn't go that low. I mean, my aperture doesn't go that low, right? Even if I close it, it still won't go that low. That'll be as low as it'll go, all right? So now I'm gonna switch it out and I'm gonna do the aperture on my prime lens. Okay, so seeing that? That is the prime lens that's on here now, okay? So, of course, I don't really need to worry about taking this off. I'm not taking any pictures right now, but I am going to turn this on, and I'm going to show you what that aperture looks like. So you see that one is still, and now it's 4.0, because where it's starting at, but I can bring this down. So I'm going to go ahead and hit that button again. So that's that one right there. So now my aperture is being selected. Okay. Then I'm going to adjust that. See, that is going down further than the 4.0. And this one actually can go down to 2.0. That's where the blurry background and stuff goes into play. Okay. So understanding what that means. So now if you're looking at your picture and you're like, oh man, I got all this blur, I don't know what's going on. That's why the aperture is low, right? And it's again, it can be a really amazing type of look, but if you're not going for it and it's making certain parts of your picture blurry that doesn't need to be blurry, then that's where you need to adjust it or change up your focus. So that way you can keep the part that you want to be in focus, and then everything else around it would be blurry. Or if you want to decide to mess with that in post, that's up to you as well. Just edit and then make everything else blurry outside of the main subject. So there's your aperture, all right? Again, I have just gone over ISO. ISO is pretty simple, very, very simple compared to the others, but you definitely want to work on your ISO first. For me, I like to work on my ISO last, just because of the fact that sometimes the ISO can be really tricky in the sense of it can sneak up on you, right? Now, you might be able to get away with it when it comes to video, when it comes to having ISO at a really high number. For this one, ISO is the higher the number, the more light that comes in. The lower the number, the less light that comes in. But your image stays clearer, meaning it's not a lot of grain. The higher the number, the grain goes up. Okay? So, I can show you guys that as well. Okay. So, for the ISO, as you can see, it's 800 right now. All right? It's ISO. 800. So, I can actually select this ISO on the beginning at the top right here, where it says ISO, and I can actually, let's see, I can actually move this button. Here we go. I can actually move these buttons, so left or right, and I can make it go whatever number I need it to go to, right? Now, if I do auto, it's gonna adjust it for me, okay? But if I decide, I'm saying, you know what, I need it to be as high as I possibly can, it's gonna go as high as it can, right? Now, again, the higher that it is, the more grain is gonna come in, okay? So I kind of like to keep mine around 200 and 400 because I'm not gonna get as much grain. But if you don't have a lot of light coming in and you're not using a flash, for example, off-camera flash, then you're gonna see a little bit of grain come in. Then you gotta worry about fixing it in post, which isn't bad because they do have programs that can actually help you out with that. But that's something to consider when it comes to your grain and using a high ISO. Okay, so it's gonna be one of those things where you might need it. Like if there is nothing else that you can do, say you can't control the lighting in the room, say that the shutter speed is as low as it can go, and you can get it to stay still, you can get people to stay still, or even if you can't, that means that you can't do a whole lot with the shutter speed, you know what I'm saying? Then you got the aperture. Aperture is about as low as it can go without it making everybody look blurry. Then this is where you're going to have to be like, you know what, let me go ahead and amp up this ISO just so that I can get more lighting to come into this image, okay? That'd be the only thing. It's usually like a fallback. Like you don't want it to be the main thing that you use for your lighting, but you want to be able to use it if there is nothing else to use, okay? So because outside of that, I usually 100, 200 is ideal. It's perfect. It's crisp. Things look smooth. People don't look grainy. They don't look like they got spots everywhere. And it's not a whole lot of work to fix in post. But if there's nothing else that you can do, go ahead and boost up the ISO. And in actuality, lately I haven't been afraid of boosting up my ISO. I just try to avoid it if I can. But if I can't, I don't freak out like I used to about having to boost up my ISO, because now I know why, right? And I can just fix it. So typically, and knowing me, I usually go ahead and just try to fix the room. So that means I have to find extra lighting from somewhere. Maybe repositioning my model, for example, that can also help. So that way I am not having to succumb to whatever's going on in my environment. And now I'm just dealing with whatever pictures is available, and I don't like that. I'm a person now. Before I used to, but now I'm a person to where I am going to make my necessary adjustments just so that I can ensure that I get the best images every time. Okay, and even if I'm looking at the picture and I'm like, I don't like it that much, let me go ahead and try it again, I will speak up and say, hey, I need you to stay right there. I'm going to take another picture. I'm going to try this out and see what this looks like, just to make sure, because you want to make sure you have that communication. You can talk to your clients, all right? So I'm going to make a video about that, how to talk to your client. All right, so that was going off of your trio, right? So understanding with what each of them do, okay? Shutter speed, is your subject moving or not? Okay, are you moving or not? Aperture, do you want a blurry background? Do you want everybody to be in focus? Okay. ISO, do you need a little bit of grain? Do you need extra lighting? Are you okay with the light that you currently have? And all of these all control amounts of lighting, but they also have their own setting. But each of them can determine on what's going to adjust when it comes to your lighting as well. All right. And of course, at the end of the day, understanding your lenses. So like this one right here is a kit lens, right? So as you can see, being as a kit lens is the 18 to 55, right? It's a zoom lens. I got other zoom lenses as well. I don't use them a whole lot. This is probably the main one that I use, especially for my self-portraits. I do be using this for my self-portraits. But when it comes to photo shoots with other people, I'm typically gonna go for my prime lens, unless I have to use my kit lens. But for other people's pictures, I'm using my prime lens because I know the lighting's gonna be great. I can use the bokeh background, like I get the blurry feel. It's gonna look really nice and buttery, and I can get more lighting in without me having to work so hard to create light, right? So those are some things that I definitely take into consideration because they matter to me. My different lenses, you know, because I got, of course, got this one. Make sure, yeah, there you go. And then, of course, I got this one right here. Now, this brand is just up to you if you decide to go with this brand. It's not a Canon brand, but it's definitely Canon compatible. I have two lenses that are like this. Typically, Canon lenses are pretty expensive if you're getting straight from Canon. But there are some 50 lenses that actually I wanted to get a new one. Because this one's a 35. I have a 50, but it's also the same Nyogo. But I am going to purchase another Canon 50, Nifty 50, what they call it. Because it's like the best of the best if you're going to go for prime and you're just starting out, right? So that's definitely one to get. I love my 50, to be honest with you. It's also great when it comes to video. I will say this. As a videographer, photographer, understanding that I can use all of my lenses to do what I want when it comes to either pictures or video is an amazing feeling because that video looks really awesome. Like, it can really give a nice cinematic look because I've focused on a person, my subject, right? And then I also can have my background to come out looking blurry, right? So that's something to definitely consider when it comes to being able to use your camera for both, right? My dream camera, or my next goal, is actually going to be the I think it's either R50 or the R10, one or the other. And the reason why is because it is going to be mirrorless and it does shoot in 4K. That's really my biggest thing, is what I wanted, to be able to shoot in 4K. So that way I can have more flexibility when it comes to editing and all of that. And ultimately to have another camera on hand. So that way me and my assistant can be better when it comes to collabing at events and those types of things. So this is basically what I have when it comes to talking about the basics and understanding your camera settings. I can show you guys what I have in my bag, right? So I have my trigger right here, which is, in my opinion, one of my favorites. Finally learned how to use this. It took me forever to finally get the right, not only trigger, but my speed light, and that's actually in the other room. But I'm glad that I finally was able to do so. I have an ass of batteries like this for my camera as well. I'm definitely working on getting a battery pack because of the fact that I've heard that those hold more charge, and I don't want to keep having issues when it comes to my batteries. So there's that. Okay. I also have an ND filter, which I will be making another video on this. So this is my ND filter right here. I keep it in this little container. That's this right here. Now, what this is it allows and helps you to control how much sun goes through your lens. So as you can see, if you're looking at me, make sure I get the glare out the way. Looking at me, you can see through here, right? Now, if I were to turn it, it's still seeing really, really good. Turn it all the way, it gets darker, right? So now you can't see if I were to put my finger behind it, right? So that's what the ND filter is. It's basically to help you to mask the sun. If you're out shooting in the sun and it's very, very, very bright, this can help you with that. Like, you can really minimize that amount. And I actually had to use this at a wedding that was being shot outside, and it did what it needed to do. I was very happy. And these aren't even that expensive, right? So you can definitely get one of those, depending on what you want. Obviously, you can get one of those. And of course, I have my SD case, SD card case. All right, so this is my SD card case. One of them. I got a couple of them, so right. So I actually have this right here, obviously. So some of these I actually have named, just because I know, okay, this is how much is left in this one. So I split them up, all right? And of course, adding more over time. That's pretty much it. That's pretty much it. It's not a whole lot here, but I definitely wanted to touch base and let you guys see what I got going on. Next time I am on here, though, I am going to want to show you guys exactly how I do a shoot. So I'm going to have to find myself either going outside, going to a different area, just somewhere, grab my camera, and I will do like a behind the scenes type situation so you guys can see what I'm doing. And then, of course, start showing you guys those pictures of those. This is going to be an interesting journey for me. I ain't going to lie to you because I'm used to just showing you guys everything in my last lives. Like, but I could not, and I would have not been doing myself justice if I would have kept recording in that way and the quality wasn't the best. But I want you to see everything, and my camera can't keep up. I mean, my computer can't keep up. That's not a good look, not from me business wise. So if I have to do it like this and talk to you guys this way, then I will. So let me know what you guys think of tonight's live. And yeah, and vibe with me. And vibe with me. So let me know if this helps, bro. Like, let me know that I'm doing the right thing. All right. So thank you guys so much again for tuning in. And I will work on the next thing, work on the next topic. Have any questions for me? You want to have something specifically to be talked about and to be discussed? I will definitely do that as well. And I will catch you guys on the next one. All right.